Hello there, you beautiful people, and welcome to the only game where you'll find a flamethrower being used on a mammoth. It is beyond all reason, and today we're looking at a 1v1 played on the map Fallen Dell. And it is a beautiful map here today, and we have these two players to thank for the game that we're going to be watching today. Of course, their names are Flower and Flocka. Flower is the blue player in the bottom right-hand side of your screen, the southeastern side of the map, and Flocka is the red player in the northwest. Let's go ahead and check on their factions here. Down here, Flower, he is an he is a Cortex player, sorry, slip of the tongue there. And then up to the northwest, we have ourselves another Cortex player, and they are both going with bot factories first. And we can take a little bit of a look at the map. There's a lot of trees for these players to reclaim, not to mention the occasional rock. And of course, we also have a lot of mexes all around the map. We're expecting to see Flower probably expand pretty heavily over to the west, and Flocka pretty heavily towards the east, and this river here gonna be the dividing line we expect to see out of this game, but we have no idea exactly how these players are going to play it out, and I really hope you enjoy the video today. It's gonna be a banger, so make sure if you're new to the channel, maybe you haven't seen bar content before from me, maybe you have only seen my FAV content, you can always hit that subscribe button down below if you want more bar content in your life. Make sure to like this video and leave a comment telling me what your favorite unit in bar is. And we now have a few units starting to come out of these factories. We of course have the constructor bot, this construction bot here for Flocka, assisting that factory already. He is building up a bunch of power with that commander after getting those 3 mexes online, and of course already has a couple of grunts out onto the field today to get some either harassment down or just stop any enemy units from getting close to his base. One thing pretty critically that neither of these players has done as of yet is throw up a light laser tower. That's something that I think is a pretty good idea to do in your main base, but I guess as long as they have the commander there, they're not too particularly worried. But before you walk away from the base, I think it's a good idea. And actually, Flocka did throw up a laser tower, my bad. And that does defend him from one angle. Does need to be a little bit wary of something coming around the northern edge of his base. But for now, he's probably most likely fine. Not anything similar coming out from Flower, but of course Flower right now has a lot of units in his base able to protect him. And let's go ahead and go over to the cinematic camera here, as we're gonna have our first little spats of combat going on. Also, sorry that the game is so quiet. For some reason, the music hasn't quite kicked in yet. And we're gonna be able to see these grunts go head to head here very soon. In fact, yeah, I think those grunts out of Flower are gonna catch up to the grunt out from Flocka, and that is going to be our first blood of the game. Flocka getting the first kill, but the grunts out from Flower able to quickly decimate that one remaining grunt on that side out from Flocka. And here in the middle we have a few more sparring grunts, but unfortunately it's going to be very bad for Flower. He is just going to lose all of his grunts on this side of the map. Trying to get some harassment damage down is not going to work out for him, so he is going to have to run away and hopefully save one of them. Nope, he does not manage it. And of course the map is really starting to spread out here. Flower really wants to get a lot of pressure up there in the north. Flocka going with a more southerly direction, kind of just going across the entire map, sending the commander out to the east to build up as many of these metal extractors as possible. One thing to take into note critically, if these two commanders do end up close to each other, if one of them deguns the other, that player does indeed lose. Unlike in team games where you usually just have a mutual killing of the comms, in this one, the player who deguns the enemy does lose, but these players, they're all familiar with the game. They will know that, of course. And let's go back to our normal gameplay view here. We have a bunch of units now coming out from Flocka. He's posturing here around this cliff face. A radar going up is going to give Flower a much better idea of what all is going on. And now these two grunts out from Flocka, they're going to be chased down and mortared by Flower. In fact, no, they are not. A grunt out from Flocka does manage to escape. The 4 grunts to the south that were trying to make it into the base have met their match in a huge contingent of grunts coming out from Flower. So that is going to be that, and all of a sudden the frame rate is not quite as good as I would like it to be. I'm going to go ahead and just really quick check a graphic setting here. Let's go ahead and set that to adaptive, and let's see if that helps out at all. It does help out a little bit. I wonder if that's going to be it might cause some issues in the recording, but if it does, oh well, live and learn. And, of course, down here in the middle, Flower starting to move forward, trying to get some damage down on towards Flocka. But Flocka has now reinforced with his own large group of grunts. No huge engagements as of yet. Overall expansion, I would say I think that Flocka is a little bit ahead, and he is showing here, having 4 more metal a second. Huge engagement now starting up over here in the middle. Does end up petering out before too many losses are sustained by either side. Of course, Flocka in a much better position overall up against this. A couple of light laser towers right here will ward off a lot of these grunts and stop them from pushing forward, especially if reinforcing grunts do show up here. We're starting to see these grave robber bots out from both sides, as well as constructors, and a very forward expansion now being set up over here for Flocka. He wants to try and create a bulkhead, kind of create a beachhead here on the other side of the water for himself to use against Flower. One critical note difference between Faf and Bar is that shallow water will not stop pretty much any unit from going across. Tanks, bots, doesn't matter, they will not be stopped. So these bots really not bothered by this little river here in the middle. And right now Flocka, he's poking, he's prodding, he wants to find a way inside the base of Flower, but unfortunately Flower's defenses will hold. They will be steadfast, and as of the moment we're sitting in a bit of a stalemate. No real progress being made on either side, although Flocka does need to be very careful with the commander here. Does have a light laser tower to defend himself, but needs to be a bit worried about the possibility of Flower just sending out a lot of units. Now he is starting to produce thugs, which are going to be a much more effective force on the field for himself. And he's going to send his commander and a thug up towards Flocka's position. All of these light laser towers in the middle are going to get huge value. Oh, that was a bad play coming out from Flocka, parking his units right inside range of those laser towers. Not ever a good idea, unless you're planning to rush them down and kill them all off. Now, Flower setting up a radar over here. Does have the thug there to defend it, but needs to be careful. Might want to throw up his own laser towers to just try and stop Flocka from pushing forward any further with his own. And over here to the west, we have a bit of a funny situation. 2 grave robbers reclaiming trees. Ships passing each other in the night. Will they reclaim each other is the question. Can they reclaim each other? I don't know. I believe that Bar would probably allow units to reclaim each other, but not currently happening. And the grunts may come down here to try and deal with those grave robbers. Getting up reclaim is going to be very important for both sides. Right now, Flocka doing a little bit better on overall metal generation, as he has set himself up quite a bit better with the entire multiple expansion paths he's going for. Flower, I feel like, needs to make some damage happen over there on that eastern flank, but right now does manage to get in a few grunts and will be able to pick up some metal extractors if he so pleases. One of the metal extractors over here most certainly gonna go down, and it does, and picked up another one over here. Also did some damage to this forward expansion. Now Flocka having to repair the damage done upon him. And in the middle, we're now starting to see these aggravator rocket bots. They outrange light laser towers, so as long as he has a good radar read here, he will be able to start firing into these light laser towers and dealing significant damage. And you can already see one of them going down very soon. One more missile and that light laser tower does go down. So that siege is going to be very powerful. Now a bunch of grunts out from Flocka managed to walk right past the commander. There are some thugs in the area. And there are a lot of light laser towers, so I don't expect too much damage to be dealt here. And it's starting to feel like these players are throwing away their grunts. They don't really want them anymore. They want to replace them with thugs. So they're trying to get any damage they reasonably can done. And over here in the center, we have a light laser tower going down to some grunts. And Flocka gonna make a little bit of damage happen here. Needs to be careful. He doesn't necessarily throw away all of his units and leave nothing to defend himself at home. Light laser towers going up in the base. This was not preemptive. He's trying to react. And reactionary play is usually not that great for you in the long term. And one big difference between these players, over here in the north, Flocka has a geothermal power plant built up, whereas Flower has not decided to build anything like it. So he is going to be a bit disadvantaged in power, and you can already see that. The power generation over 1,000 already for Flocka versus 429 for Flower. And now Flocka, he's going to get in here. He killed off the light laser tower. There's all of these engineers here. There's another light laser tower built up, but the engineers do manage to survive thanks to that light laser tower there. And right now, Flocka is really constricting the map, but we do need to talk about Flower and his gains. Up here to the northeast, he's managed to use these thugs, use his commander to take over this area formerly held by Flocka. So the map is really being split along this diagonal axis here, and it is getting evened out relatively well at the moment. I feel like Flower really needs to focus on getting his metal production up, as currently all Flocka needs to do is just rebuild some of these metal extractors, and he might have enough to go into advanced bots here soon. And since we have some fighting going on, let's go ahead and try and get you some beautiful shots of all of the action here. As, of course, we want to see those beautiful plays coming out from these various players. And right now you can see these thugs assailing an unbuilt laser tower there. And I'm just going to slowly pan across the battlefield. Maybe we'll find something happening. We do have a bit of a fight happening further to the south of us. Some thugs going up against, well, thugs and aggravators. Deeply misunderstanding his positioning right here is Flower. He does not have really any defensive emplacement set up, and he's very outnumbered on overall unit count. So he's going to need to be a little bit worried here. He's going to have to rebuild himself up a strong enough force to contest Flower, or contest Flocka here in the middle. Otherwise, Flocka might just have a push capable of making it into the base of Flower. Flower also aggressively pushing with the comm. You can see in the background there, building up light laser towers on the front line, using the thugs he does have over there to make things happen. But Flocka seems much more interested in assailing the main base. A light laser tower fully rebuilt over here will give him some breathing room. But Flower cannot rely on that for too long, really just needs to get his own thugs onto the field. And as we turn the UI on again, and I need to turn off that, sorry about that, did not mean to redshift the entire map here, and oh no! The second I turn off the HUD and everything, a huge fight breaks out. These players know me so well. It's the curse of the caster. The second you're trying to get something, you won't get it. But the moment you give up on it, the players are gonna do it for you. And here we go with the fight between these two players. The thugs on both sides are firing their shots and going down. A few grave robbers for Flocka gonna go down there, and now Flocka gonna push forward, but I think he might be a little bit outnumbered. He does have more reinforcements on the way, but needs to be careful not to overextend and lose too many units here. He does still feel powerful. He still feels like he has the numbers on Flower, and Flower does have a much easier time. There is a defender's advantage in Bar, where your units come out of the factory and they can get back into the fight much quicker, much like all of these other Sim Pro style of RTS. And now we can see that these units out from Flocka, he had so many more to begin with, but the defender's advantage, being able to walk back, being able to kite, forcing your enemy to come into you, and being able to reinforce faster, that defender's advantage really coming in handy here. But one key thing that I want to point out that Flocka is doing here, you can see this grave robber over here is already on the map getting reclaimed. He's already reclaimed most of the fighting that happened a bit more on neutral territory, and here soon he is going going to be able to reclaim further forward as long as he can keep Flower from holding this position. But if he cannot, Flower will be able to get his own Grave Robber up over here and be able to get a lot of reclaim into the bank. And that's going to be very pivotal here in this game moving forward. Let's go ahead and go back to the normal cam, get a sense of what's going on the map. Flower has made great gains in the northeastern quadrant of the map, and in the southwestern, he's even managed to take out some defenses and has left this area a lot more exposed. I swear, I'm good at speaking. I literally get paid to do it. And over here in the middle, the fight just continues. Non-stop battles going on between these players. And you do love to see it. A bar is a game of pretty explosions. And I love to watch these players do it. And he's even going to, instead of reclaim, resurrect these bots. It costs energy to resurrect them, as well as some metal if the wreck is damaged. And of course, resurrecting those bots is a very good way to bolster your forces. And now you can see he just has more thugs in the area thanks to all of these resurrections. All of these halos you see coming online on top of these units are making it a lot better for this overall engagement. Although Flocka was able to get a lot of reclaim, and that reclaim has led to him being able to support an air factory on top of having that bot factory there, and maybe he'll be able to build up enough air units to really get some damage done here in the mid game. But here at the 16-minute mark, the land game is looking very weak for Flocka. He's really had the game flipped on his head. He was very ahead in land production early on, but now is very much so lacking as far as his standing army is concerned. Let's see if him building these bombers can make up for the lack of land units he currently has. Could get in and do some economic damage down onto Flower, who still really doesn't have that much power generation. So losing these windmills, losing some of these solar plants could be very, very dangerous for him. But Flower does continue to push forward with these units in the middle, and he's gaining ground at an alarming pace. Flocka needs to be a bit concerned here. May even want to show his hand, use some of these bombers to kill off a bit of this encroaching threat on his front lines. Otherwise, he might just have his main base go up in flames. Although, speaking of bases going up in flames, Flocka now under a lot of threat, and I think he's seen those bombers, has built some anti-air in his base. These grunts trying to get into the base, trying to do some damage. There's only a couple of light laser towers, so the grunts can deal with the attritional damage for a little while, but unfortunately not going to get any real sustained damage done, and just going to leave reclaim or possible resurrection targets in the base for Flower now. And now Flower has really taken over the map, is now setting his sights on the southwestern corner, wants to choke Flocka out of the game. Will he be able to do it is the question. Flocka still building up those bombers. Not sure how that's going to go. And does have a formidable thug force here in the middle, but it's not enough to fully contest all of the forces of Flower. But as long as Flower is splitting up his forces right there, creating kind of bite-sized pieces for Flocka to chew into, it could be okay for him if he took a land engagement right now, but I don't think he's going to be able to catch out the thugs of Flower anytime soon. Flower's been very on top of building up a heavy laser tower. Was trying to go up here, but the thugs are going to shut it down before it ever completes. And the light laser towers here, these twin guards, which are more so designed for dealing with mass spam than these tankier units like thugs, are going to be incapable of stopping this push. Is going to get attritional damage down onto these units as they pass by, which is valuable. The question is it enough? Flower has managed to clear out this entire southwestern area now and is getting up his own air units, going to build up these shurikens, I believe is their name, and they do stun the thugs. They don't do any damage, but they stun them up, which allows the thugs out from Flower to be even more cost effective, and he has been so incredibly cost effective throughout this game. huge kudos to him right now. And the metal count is relatively even. The power count has evened up a bit. But unfortunately now, the bombers are taking off right now for Flocka, and I think he's going to send them across the map. He's going to try and get some damage down onto Flower. Let's go ahead and try to get a beautiful sweeping shot of the action right now. And the bombers do come in. Are they going to be able to get any lasting damage down? Bombs are falling. And oh no, it's a disaster. A ton of structures going down in a very short time period. And these bombers, some of them will manage to get a second pass. And that second pass will destroy even more structures. Will any of them get a third pass? It does seem likely. And in come a few of the bombers for a third pass. Not going to be as impactful as the first two. But that will critically damage Flower's power income quite a bit, taking him from over 1,000 to under 900 now, so over 100 power generation lost. And down here in the southwest corner, the land fight has gone exceptionally well for Flocka. And you can now see that the unit counts have really evened up here. And all of these units out from Flower, he's trying to make something happen here. He's trying to get some of this territory under his control permanently. He's resurrecting a ton of these bots with grave diggers, and if he can resurrect the defenses here, it will be very powerful. But needs to be careful because there's a lot of units now over here for Flocka, who is trying to put pressure on this situation, build up his own shurikens to stun everything up here, stunning a lot of these grave robbers, stunning a lot of these thugs, and needs to make sure that he continues to pressure here while he has the air. Air fights are breaking out between both sides. We see these fighters on both sides trying to make something happen. The thugs out from Flocka making their way in, dealing their own damage, trying to shut down these defenses that were resurrected. And overall, more grave robbers gonna come out for Flower, and he is gonna hold fast. Playing a very good game over here in the southern side of the map. And ever since this area was taken over by the Calm of Flower, Flocka hasn't even looked in that direction, hasn't even tried, just focused all the fighting down here. And the big problem here is you can see he just doesn't have the land units. Where are all of these units? And I think the answer is showing right here. He's built up an advanced bot factory. He's taken all of the pressure he gained over the last couple of minutes, taken all of that time he invested, and he is pouring it into advanced tech. But the issue that you have to worry about this with this is at what cost? He is going to lose a ton of territory down here to the south. He is going to give up a lot of room to Flower, who has already shown a propensity for resurrecting all of these units. And he's going to resurrect every single one down here from this massive battle. So there's going to be a ton of land units down here in the southern side of the map that are going to very quickly and very angrily start making their way up north. And when that happens, it's going to be dangerous. Are the few advanced bots he's going to be able to build up in time going to be enough? And that is the question on everybody's mind right now. This fiend here is doing its damnedest, but it has to get within range of the thugs, and the thugs do outrange it. If he can build up like 5 to 10 fiends, maybe he can deal with this. You can see the fiend with its increased HP and its very powerful flamethrower there is getting in, starting to deal massive damage down onto these thugs, and it kills a few thugs. Each one of these fiends will, but he needs to be very, very careful. He's building up some defenses. He's trying to help. Flower asking if he's AFK. No, he's just spending all of his metal on things that aren't units at the moment, and that's very dangerous when your opponent has such an overwhelming land presence. And now the main base of Flocka is under threat, and if he cannot hold this back, it's going to be messy. And as the thugs make their way into the main base, the fiends aren't enough to hold it off. He's going to start losing economy. And oh no, it's a disaster. The geothermal power plant now going to be under threat. And without that, I don't think he'll be able to continue this production of T2 units. He now has 2 fiends out onto the map. A huge amount of his power array goes down. It's a disaster, and the fiends getting mixed up in here, getting damage done. They're going to kill off a lot of the thugs, but does he have the power to continue? And he is now underneath the power production that Flower has. And he's going to have to get back on top of that very quickly. He's built up one of these Scorpion pop-up Sabo batteries, which will help him out in the short term, but you're going to see some power struggles coming out from some of these factories, from some of these units very soon, I would imagine. And he's going to have to rebuild a lot of this power production in very short order if he wants to stay competitive. Let's go ahead and go back to our normal gameplay view here and take a look at the map. Right now, you can see, even with the advanced metal extractor he's building in his base, Flakka is pretty much neck and neck, if not behind Flower in overall economy. Flower, though, does need to be worried. With the advanced bots coming online, he's getting his own advanced bots online, and he's already building up these Twitcher combat engineers, and maybe in a minute he'll start to build up something along the lines of a couple of the sharpshooter bots in order to counter the fiends if he has the APM, or maybe he'll just go for fiends himself. An eye for an eye and the whole world goes blind. I feel a lot of times in these mirror matchups in a lot of games, people play people either play mirrored, or they play pick and ban phase of the game. Like, oh well, you built fiends, so I can't build fiends. I must build Sheldons. Or they'll just see, oh, you built fiends? That's a good idea. I think I'm gonna do that. And that's kind of the two ways these matchups play out whenever they are mirrored. And right now we have a bit of a calm before the storm, so we're going to go ahead and check on these economies. 46 to 48 metal between these two players, a slight advantage over to Flower, and about 1,000 power for both of them just under that mark. And both of them going to need to build up a lot of power very quickly, because it's very power intensive to get T2 production online, and also you can start scaling your economy a bit more. If you're afraid of getting these advanced metal extractors, you can scale it a little bit by building up these metal converter or energy converters, which convert energy into metal. And that's usually the way you see people tech up their economies. The Fiend's now starting to get some damage done on the outskirts here. Needs to be careful that he doesn't overextend a lot, with Flower being so gung-ho with restoring and reviving units. You gotta be a bit worried about taking fights where you cannot hold the territory where the wrecks are, because that is a very powerful tactic. And now you see these shurikens out from Flower trying to catch out some of these fiends. Unfortunately for them, there is a thistle in the area built up by Flakka's comm, which will stop them from getting too deep into the territory of Flakka. And Flower now starting to lose a lot of thugs on this front line. But you have to remember, these thugs, they're just a stopgap for him to build up a larger T2 force. And he is working on that, building his own fiends up now. I don't know where that combat engineer ended up, but wherever it is, I'm sure it's happy. Back here in the base, and it's starting to build up fiends. I did not know that it could do this. I didn't know it could just queue up units. That's very cool. That's a nice little bit of tech that you don't really see in other Sim-Pro style of RTS, except for experimentals and FAF. You can't really build units this way. And now Flakka, he's mounting up for an attack to the south, has built up a large thug force, so these are all resurrected, so none of these are custom built by him just recently. He does seem to want to pressure to the south. He wants to push Flower out of this corner. Doesn't want to give up unnecessary amounts of map control. And we have a bit of a fight breaking out down here to the southwest. Thug on thug action. And we're about to have a lot of fiends colliding here. I'm going to go ahead and go to the cinematic camera for this one. Oh, see all of those fire effects coming out from the fiends. Critically, I think earlier I mentioned like the fiends dying and leaving a resurrectable wreck. I forgot, which, you know, shame on me. The fiends never leave a wreck, which is a very nice little tidbit about them. So that is a very good thing to build in a game where both sides are actively doing that. You can get a lot of value. You can attack without worrying about dumping metal or even giving your opponent units. And the fiend fights continue across the map. You just see fire being sprayed out everywhere by these small little units. And over here, we're going to see a few fiends. They are eventually going to go down to pop up Sayo batteries, but will be able to kill off an anti-air. Bunch of mobile AA also running for their life there. And we can go ahead and go back to the regular view here. If you're enjoying this content, make sure to go down below, like, subscribe, join the channel membership if you want to support the channel further, or the Patreon with link in the description. Enough of a shill there. Dragon's Maw over here fighting fire with fire is Flocka. And he's kind of went in with that. The Dragon's Maw was not a bad build out from him by any means. And the game has stagnated a little bit. Neither side really willing to take a huge attack. But over here to the east, we're starting to see Flocka pressure this area where Flower took over so long ago. And Flower hasn't really reinforced this area since then. He has built up an Arbiter heavy rocket bot, which is sieging down this area west of his forward base. And you can see all of these fiends now pushing in towards this forward base. And now we're going to see some twin guard anti-swarm double laser guns built up by Flower. But unfortunately, it's feeling like a little bit too little, a little bit too late. He's going to lose a ton of constructors most likely here as the fiends start doing their damage. But unfortunately, though, for Flocka, if he does not win this decisively, he's put himself in a really bad position. He's sacrificed the majority of his fiends for this little attack here. And he doesn't really get too much out of it. Does shut down a little bit of the metal extraction out from Flower. And does pull all of Flower's fiends over to the east, which gives him some time to build up in the west. And the game looking very even. Here in the middle, more fiends are going to assault, but they're assaulting into a very heavily defended area. Luckily, it's just light laser towers and mostly anti-air, so they can really easily deal with it. And he's just trying to keep Flower reacting to him. He doesn't want Flower to have the breathing room to put out an attack. He wants to keep on the aggressive side of this matchup, wants to keep the pedal down and keep the gas going. Full throttle. But his fiend count is getting dangerously low. And he really needs to be worried. I mean, he has all of these anti-air, which maybe will make him look a little bit scarier on radar signatures. But needs to make sure he's not just throwing away units for the sake of pressure, because that will lead to him getting quite outclassed in unit count. And now the Sheldons are coming online. The Arbiters are coming online for Flower. It can be very dangerous. Flower getting a huge attack going on up here in the north. And does shut down some of this mass production or metal production for Flocka. Another big fight breaking out over here in the middle. Sorry for that momentary silence there. My mic was I accidentally bumped my mic and muted myself. And we have sumos, the little trash cans. I love looking at these guys. Also, really quick, I need to pause the game and be right back. Apologies, everybody. I had some biological issues that I had to deal with. Now, over here in the middle, what were we talking about? We saw some sumos coming out from Flower. I don't know if it's my favorite unit anymore, but it definitely was my favorite unit the first time I played Bar. I mean, how can you not like the little trash can with legs? Come on, it's so cute. And over here in the west, such a spectacle to behold here as all of these fiends just get down and dirty with their flamethrowers together. You'll love to see it. And of course, this forward defensive situation here for Flocka being very, very beneficial there. And overall, it seems as though having two different types of units being built, the Fiends being built on the ground by the combat engineer, and having this factory building up a mammoth means that he's going to have access to multiple different types of units. But unfortunately for him, separating all of that build power out, I feel like means that all of the units build a little bit slower. So he's going to be a little bit slower to react if he does lose a fight. I don't think he has definitively lost any recently, but he's definitely down on overall units produced. And right now, Flocka intermittently is far ahead on metal production. Not quite sure how. I guess that may have been some reclaim-related kind of situation going on there. And over here, the Mammoth, the first one, is done out onto the field and dealing damage, has long range, is super beefy with 16,000 HP. For reference, a Fiend has around, what, 1,000, just over? And this is something I think is a bit worthy of course, looking at it fight in glorious cinematic cam mode. And it is not really doing all that well thanks to the Sheldons in the background shelling it right now, but you also have these Orbiters which are doing some battery fire onto the defenses there. Let's go ahead and see these Fiends seemingly interested in making some kind of aggressive play over here to the west, but unfortunately for them, there's a wall of Fiends here to defend against that eventuality. And we're currently just sort of waiting to see when one of these sides takes a large step forward, and it is in fact going to be Flocka over here on the west. He's going to just full send it with all of the Fiends into a lot of the defenses down here. Is going to be able to pick up a building advanced metal extractor and may even be able to pick up a finished one, which will be a lot of damage done down on towards Flower. But over here in the center of the map, a large push out from Flower, pushing forward. A Persecutor has been thrown up to try and deal damage to these things from further away, but this forward position almost assuredly just going to go down in the short term. And these lasers coming out from Flower's Mammoth are devastating. And overall, over here to the east, we have a lot of these Persecutors going up various places. I don't know what that is. That is a Scorpion. And now sieging over here to the east with that stationary siege weaponry is Flocka. But here in the middle, he has to be worried. He's getting up his own Mammoths to try and defend, but he threw away all of his Fiends. So he's just going to be outnumbered. Is this going to be another attack that ends in disaster? Or is it going to be the attack that broke the camel's back, as it were? Mammoth on mammoth action over here in the entrance to the base of Flocka. And as you can see there, here's something that you may not know. The shots out from the mammoth from Flocka, you saw how they were hitting the ground. They weren't quite hitting that mammoth. That is due to the radar signature not being clean enough. And radar is line of sight, and of course radar needs, you need a radar tower for good accuracy. So it can be a bit of a problem whenever you don't have a good radar setup, whenever you're trying to fire at these units who are further away. And now you see the mammoth fighting going on. They do travel in herds, and they do deal a ton of damage to each other. One mammoth going down over there for Flocka, but he has another one right behind it to help him out. He's gonna have a sumo here soon. And these two mammoths out from Flower, they managed to do a little bit of damage here, but they've just left a bunch of wrecks over on this side of the map for Flocka to either reclaim or build up into resurrected units. And overall, that is a nuke being launched down to Flower. No, it's not a nuke, sorry. I see large missile flying across the sky and I get scared. It is, of course, a Juno anti-radar, jammer, minefield, and scout spam weapon. Now, in the middle, we have another fight breaking out. Let's try and get a good shot of it. And every time I switch to this camera, man, every single time they decide to back off. But the mammoth count is rising steadily at the moment for Flocka. And the mammoth count for your boy Flower, not really doing all that well. And overall, the fight is it's going all right now, I think, for Flocka. He is going to be chased down by all these fiends. Needs to be careful about it. But the fiends do eventually go down. A self-destruct there on the fiends out from Flower. When the fiend self-destructs, it does a lot of damage with his explosion. Now you can see the fiends out from Flocka making their way down towards the mammoths. And this is kind of all of the action that's going on. So we're just going to stay on this camera. Just get beautiful shots of everything going on. Occasionally turn the HUD back on. Try and catch when something's going on elsewhere. Such as the fiends over here trying to poke and prod to the east. We've seen this a lot out of Flocka. He likes to try and get little raiding parties in, but a lot of the time it just doesn't go well for him. He's going to pick up a couple of combat engineers, or at least, yeah, does manage to fully pick them up, and is making his way in towards the main base. But now there are going to be some responding fiends, and those will be roasting their brothers in arms, I guess. They're not really brothers, they're enemies in arms. Kind of like cousins. They're fighting there. And now we're gonna make our way back over to the west. And you can see Flower just kind of giving up. All of these resurrected mammoths really becoming an issue. And in fact, none of them are resurrected. These are all just rebuilt, so he's been reclaiming those mammoths and building new ones. I don't know if that's more or less efficient. And, of course, the siege works out over here to the east from Flocka. Gonna be able to pick up an advanced metal extractor, I believe that is. And it's going to actually cost Flower quite a bit, because this advanced metal extractor is just constantly being repaired, which is going to be a drain on the economy. And then once it finally goes down, it's just going to be less economy there for him. And now the mammoths continuing to push down. A few shurikens have been sent out to try and EMP down the mammoths out from Flocka. And Flower now deciding to push in. He has decided that his mammoths are going to be grouped up, whereas Flocka was spreading them out quite a bit. The Sheldons, though, here may be the deciding factor. A radar jamming bot there to try and keep the mammoths safe from the Sheldon fire. But those Sheldons will be able to get a lot of damage done in very short order. And now pop-up Sabo batteries being thrown up by Flocka are going to be quite the threat here for any advancing mammoths. The mammoths here They're a bit on different pages. This Mammoth now pushing forward, gonna get shelled by a ton of Sheldons, a Persecutor, Sumos, Mammoths. It's gonna go, it's a Mammoth to the slaughterhouse. And it's gonna go down. Both players now firmly above 100 metal a second, and depending on reclaim, spiking to the 300s. And overall, all sides doing well. You still see some resurrected thugs over there for Flocka, keeping them alive for a long period of time. Resurrected Mammoth trying to push forward, taking huge amounts of damage. And all of the fighting is right here, and I want to get you a good view of it, so we're going to stay in this camera for now. We're going to slowly pan and change the camera orientation to kind of make it left versus right here, so that you can see the fighting going on from a bit of a neutral view instead of always being from Flower's view. Pop-up Saber battery there for Flocka is going to go down. And I think we're starting to see maybe even experimentals come onto the field. Nope, those are just Mammoth icons. Although these players slowly reaching up towards that economy required to build experimental gantries and the units from them. And now the Mammoths fighting each other in the middle. It does feel as though Flocka is slowly losing this war of attrition, which is what Bar generally turns into. It evolves into this war where you have to be really worried about keeping your units alive, and these radar jamming bots that are present for Flower but not present for Flocka are being a huge issue right now for Flocka. He needs his own radar jamming bots because his Mammoth, his frontline units, are really struggling up here against the Mammoths that are basically invisible right now for him. The Fiends over here now making their way south. We'll track along with them for a little while. You can see them going out to the field of battle to meet up with opposing Fiends and Mammoths out from Flower. And the Fiend on Fiend action. The fire is intense, and it's an inferno of rage and hatred between these two sides. And a lot of units now for Flocka are being amassed on this southwestern corner, whereas the Mammoths out from Flower look to be poised to push into the main base. Will they be able to do it is the question. There's a lot of Mammoths here for Flower. Although this could be a bait, it could be Flocka trying to get the Mammoths to overextend. You can see his units coming up from the south towards all of these Mammoths over here for Flower. Sorry, I've gone quiet, just enjoying the spectacle over here. You can see some long-range siege going on there, some missiles being launched over there for Flower in the background. It just feels like there's always something happening that you can look at and be like, damn, that's beautiful. And now, with this line of Mammoths, I feel like Flower is underestimating his capabilities here. You can see we click on Flower. He probably thinks that a lot more of this is a lot scarier than it is. And unfortunately for Flower, his base just got nuked! Oh no, it's a disaster! Flower gets nuked, did not have the necessary defenses to deal with that, and decides to end the game. Thank you all for watching. You've been so beautiful. Thank you to my patrons and channel members who help me out so very much. And you all are oh so beautiful. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more flamethrowers destroying mammoths. Flamethrowers and mammoths. Not very many games where you'll see that. And of course, stay beautiful. I'll see you in the next one. This is Willow, signing off.